Me now, Marc Morial, President, CEO of the National Urban League. He's former mayor of New Orleans. And let me announce here first, author of an upcoming book, The Gumbo Coalition, 10 leadership lessons that help you inspire, unite, and achieve, which is available for pre-order right now. I'm going to get back to the book in a moment, though, Mayor Morial. But first, you heard the mayor talk about what inequalities need to be addressed, and you and I and others in the that head national civil rights groups have been talking with Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and even the White House around these issues, because nothing has made it more blatant to Americans than how we've seen the results of who has died at a higher rate and who has, in fact, been found positive at a higher rate than this COVID-19. National Urban League has been one of the leading forces around trying to address this. What needs to happen, Marc, and how bad is it?
First of all, Reverend, thank you for having me today. And I thought Mayor Breed hit the spot on a number of issues. Right now, what we do not want to do is to rebuild the public health system the way it was. It needs to be built in a reformed way, in a way that is equitable, from access to treatment to its entire creation. So if Congress is to put together a Marshall Plan for health care, there's got to be equity, there's got to be inclusion, there's got to be an understanding that hospitals and clinics and the delivery system in poor neighborhoods and in communities of color is not as good as it is for wealthier Americans or middle-class Americans. That has to be addressed, because in COVID-19, we're seeing that in a big way. Secondly, I want to be as unequivocal as possible. Congress has got to provide financial support for American cities without condition, without riders, without playing games. These are police officers, firefighters, sanitation workers, recreation workers, and their families, and their essential employees. And it would be hypocritical to rush to the front of the line to support airlines and hotels with a $500 billion credit facility, and then turn around and make excuses for those public sector workers who've been essential to our ability to navigate COVID-19. And I think the civil rights community is aligned with our local elected officials on that basic principle.
Now, one of the things that we've also worked together as a coalition on is the fact that the stimulus bill did not in any way come evenly in terms of supporting small businesses, black businesses, and brown businesses, and many of them because the lenders that was used. When you look at big banks, I can show you some of the data. The percentage of banks that do not give loans to blacks as opposed to others, the percentage of other things, these were the institutions the original stimulus went through. And therefore, they took care of their depositors, their big depositors, their big businesses. And one of the things that all of us worked on together, talking to Secretary Mnuchin, who I give credit, did get on the phone with us, and others, is dealing with it on the second round. And there was $60 billion set aside, but we don't know whether that did more or did anywhere equal the way it should be. So as they talk about another stimulus package come, share with our viewers on what we're doing, because these businesses employ a large segment, a majority of people in our communities, and are the ones that can least survive 2-3 months. They need that influx of money, and it keeps people working. It's not about a guy making a lot of money as an owner. It's about keeping people employed and serving the communities.
Let's look at some facts, Reverend. There are approximately 8 million plus businesses in the United States. About 4 million of them have 4 employees or less. When it comes to African-American businesses, there are about 2.5 million. 90% of them have 1 employee or less. In round 1, 2/3 of the money went to publicly traded companies. That was never the purpose nor the intent of the money. In round two, you and I and many others fought for this carve out for community development financial institutions and minority serving institutions. But until we get the data, we don't know if it, in fact, leveled the playing field or made it more equitable. I hope so. And I know a number of banks who voluntarily sought to address who's going to be prioritized in round two. What we need, fundamentally, Reverend, is we need a pool of money that's limited to businesses that have less than 5 or less than 10 employees, nonprofits that have less than 5 or 10 employees, and maybe a cap on loan size. That way, it's not going to be a rush to the front of the line to see who has the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best connections, the best banking relationships, if this program is going to go forward. So if there are not stringent conditions going in any further round, I just think that the intent of it was never, the execution was never consistent with the intent of the program. I might add this. They threw out the SBA size guidelines. SBA's got size guidelines on what a small business is. Congress and the administration, this was the administration's idea, said if you have 500 employees or less, quote, you're eligible for this program. So there was a failure of public policy on the executive and at the legislative level. Round two, because of your advocacy, my advocacy, the advocacy of many, is much better, but we have to get the data to see.
Well, and that is where, and I put up the graph, business owners, blacks 95%, Latino 91%, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander 91%, Asian 75%, all of them likelihood of being denied by mainstream banks. That's why we're doing this. I need to ask you this. You have written a book. We were teasing each other because both of us have been working on a book, but yours comes out this week and mine is weeks away. And you're dealing with, you call it the Gumbo Coalition. Why? What does Gumbo Coalition mean?
You know, gumbo is a great New Orleans dish, my beloved hometown, the city that I led, the city of my birth and my heritage, reflects a food, an incredible dish that's made up of a variety of ingredients, and you can continue to add, and it gets stronger. So my idea of gumbo is the idea of multiculturalism, multi-religious, an America where everyone sits at the table on equal terms. And in the Gumbo Coalition, we talk about 10 lessons, and I tell some stories. Reverend, you're in one of the most, I think, one of the more interesting stories, and it involves our work with the Obama administration and some of the heat and shade we took from some of our own friends about the way we decided to align ourselves with President Obama and not play crab politics.
Right. Well, no, I've gotten a pre-copy, but it'll be out on Tuesday. And I've read over the weekend the book. It's a great book. It is almost as good, Mark, as your mother's book. And don't forget, she brought that book on PoliticsNation as well.
Yeah, well,
Marc Morial, thank you. Meanwhile,
thank you for having me.